The other day, I headed out to get myself some grub, something to satisfy my remarkably hefty body, and I walked into a fine food facilitator and ordered myself a chicken sandwich. The employee, a man of extremely irritating face, informed me that since I wasn't willing to pay him anything, he wasn't going to give me my food, and that's when I suddenly was struck with an idea. No money? No cock? That's perfect for my Final Fantasy IV challenge. I may have been removed from the premises, but I also gained a premise, so who's the loser now? Probably me. I'm quite hungo. Oh, and also, I guess I walked by the local theater on the way home, and there was a sign that said magician fucked off, as well as the game is too easy with magic, and I said, man, I wish I had some cock sandwich in my mouth right now. Alright, so I have to admit, in order to keep up my rhythm of making up what I can conceive as the most difficult and excessively swear-filled challenge runs ever recorded for the Final Fantasy series, I wanted to do something monumental for 4. To this point, I have really prided myself in the CBT severity that we've engaged in. But with Final Fantasy IV, the game on par with the difficulty of eating jello or even ass, it's simply not dynamic enough to make the game hard in most regards. Oh, and also, just for the record, I love this one. It's great, it used to be top 3 for me, but it's fallen due to being very short and one of the easiest entries. Also, I have fun pissing people off, so you know what? Third worst game in the series might be 12. I don't know, it's just a little thought. I didn't initially plan to do a challenge run for every Final Fantasy game, let me make that clear. I just thought the one I created for the first one was so, 111 was so awful, you know, the pinnacle of impossible. That way it was interesting, but then it ballooned into a meta challenge, a category of bullshit that I wanted to conquer for every game. In our Final Fantasy I challenge, where we quite simply could not spend any gil at all, that completely utterly ruined the experience, and at the time I teased that I'd be down to do that rule set for every Final Fantasy game in the series. But as I dug deeper, it just wasn't enough at all. It would be a slight hindrance and nothing more. But I realized it's a good starting location, you know, so that's what we built from. We can never buy anything that requires money. And from that point on, I realized another fun idea, and it would be to erase men. Delete the ability to use the male characters, all women only. And you may be asking, but wait, there are portions of the game without a female party member, and yes, that's yes, but we will talk about that in a minute. This rule set leaves you with 3 playable characters total, Rosa, Rydia, and Porum, all of whom are not exactly designed to smack bitches. That is ignoring that they are all powerful spellcasters, and I want to let you into my head for a second.
Balls, dick, ass, me, clever, me, script, Diablo 2 is the best RPG ever made, Final Fantasy V without using—
Ignore that, sorry, it's a real rat's ass in there. If you allow the use of spellcasting, the female party members just have too much strength again. We want this to be the worst Final Fantasy IV challenge on the internet. And the reason I know this is because I started doing it with magic allowed, and we'll get into it. I decided quite rapidly to change my course, and that's how far I'll go for the audience. I will commit to 2 separate long challenge runs to concoct the biggest cock I can. I needed so much information to perfect this concept. And for the record, the initial run, which was barring men and money only, will be referenced plenty while we're playing the actual run today. It gave me a lot of information I wouldn't have otherwise. So I'm going to have a periodic check-in system for this video where we'll be referring to the extremely and oftentimes very painful learning moments from the original run, while we'll mostly be focused on the menless, moneyless, and magicless challenge. So with all this gone, we might as well call the game fan, because I'm not going to be a fan of the shit I gotta do today. I'm not going to run out of that running gag, by the way. There's a lot of letters in Final Fantasy, including anal. Wait, that's inal. Oops, Final Fantasy. Asshole. You have never seen this game like you will see it today, believe me. There is actually an immense amount of information I need to tell you about, but I don't think it's a good idea to reveal the back end early on. We just sat down, let's get to know each other first. What we can talk about is the version. The original North American release of this game, dubbed Final Fantasy II, is an easy addition of the actual Final Fantasy IV. It removed a lot of abilities, items, and made every encounter easier. It's not what we'll be using today. Instead, I'll be playing a translated version of the original Super Famicom, which retains the difficulty at its highest point. That is, if we're not including the DS port, which is remarkably hard for some reason. This 3D remake is different in a lot of ways, and I view it as supplemental to the actual experience of 4, which is more represented by the original SNES releases, the PS1 remake, the PSP remake, and the Pixel remaster. The DS game is like some dream version, something conjured up in some sick fantasy. A fucking fantasy, one could say. Ah-her! I wrote ah-her. How could you voice ah-her? Ah-her! The DS port is like not impossible, by the way, but it's just randomly a lot harder, and that'd be something to consider to make this challenge more worse. I'm kind of interested in that, but you know, mostly I want to stay with the classic experience, as there's other balances that make things have more potential to be easier with the 3D remake. And I wanted to say to anyone thinking, oh, I bet this is just a grinding conundrum, it's not going to be a hard challenge with some of the weirdest fucking problems ever. I want you to pre-consider, how is Porum, a 5-year-old little girl with white magic, supposed to farm experience at all? Or if you know the game well, maybe you'll, like me, question how on earth Rosa will overcome her first solo boss encounter. This is going to go bananas, maybe even kumquatty. So I'm not exaggerating, unless I hacked the game to make me only play as Edward or something, this is as horrendous as I can reasonably imagine. And for the record, unless something is literally impossible to make a good challenge run for, I will never modify the game to make it harder. It's just too open-ended with that idea. Why not just make the imp gimp my ass with every strike? Oh boy, we can do anything. But you know, elephant in the room time, there are a few points in the game where no woman is present in the party, and here's my concession for those points. We will restrict ourselves to the singular worst party member available at that time. Also, honestly, it's not much. The times in question, there's the first 10 minutes of the game, like 6 fights in Fabul Castle, and then the longest stretch directly after the second fiend Cagnazo is killed, as you have no women in the party for several boss fights. And I'll break it down now. The beginning of the game will be us using the protagonist for the only time ever, a character whom people have trouble determining the correct name of. Cecil, Cecil, you know, etc. We will not have that problem today, as I am naming him Keckle and will pronounce his name different every time I have to say it, so fuck you, world. That's my typical stance on problems. Oh yeah, the men were forced to use, the disgusting men. Yeah, so we're gonna start with Kiesel, and then we're gonna move on to Edward for Fabul, and then finally Sid for after Cagnazo. Cagnazo, I always said Cagnazo, I prefer that. I'm gonna say that from now on. Finally, we should clarify a few rules. Several points in the game force either the resurrection or full healing of the entire party. That's okay for the girls, of course, but shit's stated for our guys. It makes life annoying. I suppose a mod to keep them permanently dead would be swell, but I haven't the inclination to figure out how to create something that pointless. So the rule simply is, on resurrection, the men can strike to kill each other and nothing else. Conversely, the women in most instances can use a spell to instantly fell the male party members. That being said, I do not force the women in a boss fight where the men get resurrected to spend their precious turns killing the men. They need to focus on their battle at hand. If I can do it, I will use a high damage spell to kill them instantly. So yeah, essentially the concept is, can you beat the entire game with the female characters whacking things with a stick? Or whips, you know, those hurt, them stings the balls. The rest of the journey is to be revealed. I'm tired of not showing you gameplay. Let's begin. The game begins with Dark Knight Kiesel on an airplane, wondering if he's the good guy. Cut the scene to him killing poor people for gemstones. While he's busy cleaning the blood off his body, he's assaulted by a variety of enemy and wonders why variety of enemy have been more places. And he probably also pisses on the way back home too, they don't show that. At the Castle of Baron, where Sequel is the captain of the airplane brigade, tasked with finding and retrieving crystals for the king, he asks what the fuck is wrong with him lately, to which the king goes, "My boy," and hands him a literal bomb and says, "Kill women and children, bitch." Our hero, in quotes, dumber than a box of rocks, agrees and leaves to go take a nap. His good pal and not backstabbing, hate-filled total fuck Kane shows up and says he'll go with us to the Village of Mist. I love Kane, let's get that straight, but you know, he's a rat in dragoon's clothing. Cecil goes to bed and Rosa greets us and says I'm acting like a bitch and leaves. You know, he's offended and decides at that moment to let Rosa fight her own battles forever. We sleep in our whole ass armor and wake up to hit the road with Kane. Weird guy, weird fuck. From this point, I will run away from all encounters as much as I can help it. We don't have to fight anything except one boss in the Mist Cave, and to be as purist as we can, I don't want to grind anything. We'll start by killing Kane. Kane will remember that and progress into the cave properly. In here, we can formally show something that makes Final Fantasy IV ridiculously more easy, but that's the run command. Holding the 2 shoulder buttons allows you to skip out of combat for free, as the only penalty is sometimes losing Gil, which I lost an infinite amount of before I started the game, but since you can just skim past the world, there's no treasure chest that's difficult to reach and obtain. This is a vague disappointment to me, as it trivializes a lot of dungeons, but there's more to this than meets the eye, and while it speeds me up a lot around here, it's not that big of a deal. I will revisit this topic. That being said, all that's in here right now is 2 potions, a tent, and a remedy, all things that will be imminently useful. We wind around to the end of the cave and find ourselves poised with a simple question. Please leave, yes or no. I'm this deep already, I walked for like 14 minutes. I'm not gonna go back, so we push forward and we're presented with the Mist Dragon. She has 465 HP and one mechanic where she turns from corporeal killable beast to incorporeal unkillable air, and the question is why she doesn't just stay as air the entire time. If you attack while she's in the mist form, you get countered, and this fight is a good time to mention we are no longer playing the game with a turn-based system. As we are now on active time battle, enemies input their actions without caring about what I'm doing, they just go. I make this awful because not only did I ramp the combat speed in the menu up to max, I am also playing on an emulator to allow myself to play 417% faster. So they're just instant, they move like lightning. anything. I cannot physically think or input fast enough to keep up, so consider that a secondary bonus challenge. My weak brain and shitty thumbs. Therefore, I oftentimes strike into the Mist Dragon's counterattack and suffer lots of needless damage. But as the tutorial boss, this is easy and we can move on to the village of Mist. Kegel exercises and his friendly backstabber Anal Pain walk into the village and release what they are carrying, a package full of wasps, and those fucks they destroy everything. A nearby little girl, one of our most badass playable characters today, is distraught because you just killed her mom in the cave. Yes, Keckle, ladies and gentlemen. She attacks us with a huge man and we almost die, and we wake up in the nearby forest without Kane at our side. Rydia is here and we have to carry her to the local town of Kaipo. For a moment, let's review the original footage, the playthrough before I spammed run to avoid male characters being used as much as possible. I kill a group of desert Sahagins, and unbeknownst to me, but I get an incredibly lucky drop of a tent. Keep this in mind, it's gonna matter in a bit. Once at the inn and sleeping in my armor again, I'm woken up in the middle of the night by some dickheads from Butthole, and I quickly kill them. I don't even remove their bodies from the room, I just go back to bed. I sometimes can't sleep if I just had a bowel movement. This guy killed 4 people and can continue snoozing. That shows how evil he is. When we wake up, we are finally able to use Rydia and we can begin our challenge. Rydia is a little girl who starts at level 1 with absolutely garbage can stats, and since we're here looking at a baseline character, let's talk about the stats and what each one represents. As there is never going to be any spellcast to deal damage, we need to think strictly physical offense. Rydia is aptly strong for a 6-year-old girl with 3 total strength currently. That is, she does fucking nothing. Strength obviously dictates your overall damage with melee attacks, but it also calculates additional attacks. As you can see on the right side of the character menu, you have an integer followed by a multiplication symbol. That means you attack that many times, which is obviously the best way to impact strength. The listed hit percentage is the chance each attack will actually work, so if you get unlucky, you can hit like 0 times even if you swung 16 times total, for example. At 1 attack with a low chance to hit, that means we will be missing everything constantly. The formula for getting more attacks is strength divided by 8 and agility divided by 16, with a baseline of 1 attack by default. So at 8 strength and 16 agility, you would attack 3 times. Strength otherwise gives you an attack power bonus equal to 1/4 your total strength, so at 99 you'd have 25 attack power. Agility gives us the aforementioned increase to attacks, but it also gives you physical and magical defense for some reason, being equal to agility over 16 and agility over 32 respectively. There are some resources that claim agility also increases your frequency of action in the ATB system, but not every resource brings it up, and I have no idea. Maybe agility does nothing for agility related purposes, just because it's, the spirit of Nasser living on. Things don't do what they seem to should do. Vitality strictly gives you defense bonus equal to 1/2 your vitality stat. Wisdom would do nothing for us as it impacts black magic damage equal to 1/4 the statistic, but it also increases defense and evasion to magic as well. The magic defense formula is awful, giving you your wisdom plus will stat over 32. The evasion is far better, being the wisdom and will stat over 8. The will stat is designed for white magic potency, again, dog shit, and has the same defense clause as wisdom, meaning you get the same bonus 2 times over. Anyway, I assume that's how it works. It's listed that way on the website. Maybe it's only 1 time, maybe the whole good Final Fantasy IV heads in the audience can tell me if I'm right or wrong. Truthfully, all we really care about is offense. Thing is, unlike other Final Fantasy games up to this point, we aren't growing randomly in stats until level 70, being fixed on paths that the game developers intended. That's well and good, except Rydia won't be hitting a second time per attack until level 15, and then won't get a 3rd hit until 28. Funnily enough, she gets a 4th hit at 29, but let's review something. The enemies around here give around 40 experience each, and level 15 alone requires 11,000 experience. So we kill Kekal, and now it's just a level 1 girl here against the world, and I can't even begin. You get fucking mutilated by everything, and the task of hitting anything is monumental. Rydia just sucks ass. I'll give you a taste of the original run so you can just see how bad this is. It is wild how inaccurate she is. Although back then I didn't know a lot of things that I now know today. For the record, Rydia doesn't have magic to begin with anyway, so the first level would have to be obtained dry on both runs. With 30 HP and taking at least 15 per hit, up to honestly 30, I don't know if we can actually kill anything. But let's take inventory of all the groups of enemies in this region and see what they're good for. We have the lovely Imp, followed by the less lovely everything else, being the Larva, Sand Moth, Desert Sahagin, Sandpede, and Sandworm. As you can see by these helpful displays, the Imp has 6 HP and the next lowest has 20. Everything but the imp can't be bested physically right now. There is one group of 4 imps around here, and those are your only target you can possibly kill. So there's 2 choices, one done in each run. You can use the staff to bonk shit to death horribly slowly, and you can get lucky. Radia gets to level 2 and gains a spell, which you can then use like 3 times before being out of mana with no way to restore except via tents, which are exceptionally rare. Or you can do what I do in the second run and run to the nearby water cavern, meet old fuck Tella, and run from every enemy group until you get the ice rod. Before we could go do that, just as a clarification, we have to go into the town of Kaipo and find that Rosa is exhausted from the future prospect she has of carrying her boyfriend's corpse around and needs a sand ruby to be resuscitated. Those are thoughts for later. We just need to know that so Tella will move his ass and we can get our rod. This is a boon of the gods right here, being an astounding carry for Rydia's portion of the game. The ice rod, when used as an item, will cast Ice 1 on all enemies. This does, no joke, 7 damage to most things if multi-target, so it's utter trash, but it never misses, and 7 damage to the group of 4 imps actually kills all of them. In addition, the Desert Sahagins are weak to ice, and therefore it also kills a lot of them instantly, which is awesome. What I, for some reason, neglected to realize horribly too late in a third playthrough of this section later on, hint hint, I realized that the rod would have sufficed as a good weapon. When it's used in combat, it deals like 20 to 30 damage to a target. I mean, obviously that's not great, but it means right from the beginning you don't need anything to farm with Rydia. She can take care of herself. Except for the health, of course. She still dies if anything touches her once. But with the ice rod in hand, doing this means I only have a 4-hour grind to get to level 15, where I'll be a little more physically powerful. But this is where, in my opinion, the run becomes so sick. It starts feeling like a different game altogether. During all this grinding, we need to hyper-fixate on drops, because we can't restore our health without potions or tents, and fortunately, those are not in short supply around here. The funny part that makes life horrible, and I only knew because I played the game before playing it again, but certain sections do not have enemies that can drop healing items. Which relates to our second 6-year-old girl section. Imagine a game having 2 of them. So Rydia might have an easier ride, but as soon as we progress to a new part where she isn't in the party, we'll actually be fucked unless we plan correctly. Also, for the record, only Rydia of our 3 usable party members can use the ice rod in combat. Unfortunately, you need to be actually able to equip an item to use it. It doesn't let you select it in the inventory as anyone. So for now, let's focus on Rydia, who rapidly starts gaining experience and levels. The imps have the potential to drop 4 things and are literally my favorite enemy in the game now. The common drop being a potion is insane, but they occasionally drop the high potion, which is god tier. The regular potion restores around 100 per use, and the high potion restores around 500. That's titanic for early in the game, and for late in the game, normal potions will be out of combat chaff, and the high potions will be fringely important in battles themselves. Additionally, imps drop the bronze hourglass, an item that inflicts stop on everything in combat. I don't think anyone's ever said this before, but the bronze hourglass is actually so sick. This thing has enormous ramifications for the run and will be necessary for many things, and not just that, but it's also good when I just want to have an easier fight. Also, it doesn't work on bosses, just figured you should know that. And finally, the 4th drop of the imp is the imp summon, which even when used in my magic run was some of the worst shit I've ever seen, and it's their very rare drop, and very rare isn't a misnomer. This classification of item never fucking drops. Oh, and just as we're talking about item drops, there's a bug to duplicate things, and I don't use it to make an infinite amount of items because I think that's terrible. It ruins the challenge's fun in a lot of instances. It's not like it would instantly make me win, but it would take away a lot of the fun of what's going on. And in fact, I never use a single bug this time around. Imagine that. We aren't in the NES era anymore. Besides the imp, there's a lot of prized items here. The Desert Sahagin drops potions as well as tents, which restore around 1000 HP and a lot of mana per use. Those are wildly good and premium for the whole run, but sadly pretty rare, like so rare that in my extended grind here, I end up only having 12 of them. Otherwise, the other enemies drop high potions occasionally, and the very rare, almost insultingly rare drop from the sandworm is the silver apple. This is amazing, honestly. It's one of the most premier items in the entire game, and the fact that it comes from an enemy this early on is quite funny. What it does on use is that it gives any character 50 additional maximum HP, meaning if I really wanted to, I could grind for years and get 99 of them and max out anyone's health immediately. Yeah, I'm not doing that. I'd rather this shit be impossible because, you know, honestly, that's pretending health will be the problem here. So that's the scoop right now, and we're here for a very long time, not only bolstering our inventory, but also getting Rydia strong enough for her first boss, the Octomam.
Excuse me, ma'am, you're in my way. I'm gonna kill you with my fucking stick now.
The Ice Rod special does nothing to this boss, so we're gonna have to use melee. Therefore, I'd really enjoy being level 28 at least for 3 hits, but it's not gonna be a pretty grind. No joke, like 12 hours go by, more if you consider I did something like this in the first playthrough as well. Only difference is having bio for Octomam made that comically easy. So back and forth, we build up a fleet of potions, some high potions, and a handful of tents, and actually one single silver apple, which will come in handy later. I get strong enough that I can effectively stop having to use the ice staff attack and actually start physically attacking. Rydia gets to level 32, which gives me 3 attacks with horrible strength. She won't get another melee break breakpoint until 40 fucking 5, so that's just not happening. 2/3 of a million experience divided by about 200 a fight sickens me. That is fortunately not necessary, and we can absolutely batter Octoman with a range of 15 to actually 120 damage a hit, so that's really good. That's on par with Seesaw's damage output at the start of the game with 0 grinding. Also, there's an inherent thing I didn't know until really too late, but you get an accuracy buff by being in the center position. Being in the back row is akin to other Final Fantasy games where you're so far away the enemy can't be bothered to lean over to hit you, so you suffer less damage, but also you miss a lot more. But for some reason, being in the center makes it almost even out if you're in the back row. You get an accuracy buff, and you deal much better damage while retaining the safe distance approach. So classic scene, the little girl punches the octopus to death while 2 men lay dead. The same little girl then continues to have the best week of her life when she witnesses an entire kingdom get firebombed by Butthole again. We immediately investigate the bomb site and scrounge all the items in here. We are such fuckers, and on the top floor is Anna, Tella's daughter, who is dying, with a useless man nearby named Edward, Anna's lover, who is suspiciously the only fine person in the kingdom. Probably hid under his girlfriend's body to survive the bombing. Tella resurrects himself to punch the shit out of Edward, but they're both feeble and the fight sucks. No one in this room could handle Rydia's muscle mass right now. After the scuffle, Anna asks them to stop fighting and become great friends instead. Both of them eye each other, and Tella looks over and sees this useless man and then a little girl polishing a cane that will be used to kill him later, making him realize it's better to just go at this one alone. Edward joins the party and says he's happy to be of use. After that, we go outside and beat him to death. Let me be frank about Edward though. He's Richard, and by that I mean he's Dick. He's a pain in the ass to kill because if he gets low enough on health without dying, he just fucking hides. And then you can't kill him, so I have to reset until he feels like dying the accurate way. Wonderfully alone again in a new area, and there's not much that's different, only the fact that I feel compelled to get more drops from monsters, more the merrier. In Damsian Castle's basement, we get loaded to the gills with amazing gear and items. A ruby ring, a plumed hat, a crossbow, and 20 holy arrows among more supporting items like potions and tents. These arrows are going in a time capsule. We need to preserve them for a later time. I learned my lesson with this one, believe me. So now that I have looted the building, I continue looting some ass outside and we get a very healthy stockpile. As a rule, I'm excessively concerned about wasting items as we have a pretty easy time farming and it doesn't require much to stay alive. I'm kind of frequently straddling extremely low HP values and I get pooped on and I have to reset the game. Cool. Rydia gets a few more levels, which is incredibly unreasonable for this point in the game, and now we have 12 tents, 19 bronze hourglasses, 43 potions, 53 antidotes, 10 crosses, and 9 high potions as our collection of useful items. It's high time to see if we can defeat the Ant Lion. The good part of Final Fantasy IV is that regular enemy encounters are not going to be unstoppably bad for me since I can freely run from anything, except for a few horrendous fucking exceptions. So the point is we can just go around and grab all the chests in the Ant Lion cave without opposition. Then we're face to face with the Ant Lion, who has a real ass face, and that's good. Don't be scared, small girl, fight the beast. This guy is funny because in the first playthrough I just shot him with hyper overpowered spells and killed him immediately, but here I didn't even realize he counters physical damage with an attack of his own, and I'm absolutely chunking myself. In retaliation, I just start using the Ice Rod special again, and good news, he doesn't care about that. It's not like it's a massive hit to our damage per round, and we keep up that rhythm for quite a while. He dies, and after the fight we can go and heal Rosa. It's during the night when Sekal is stuffing her that Edward goes outside and thinks, gee whiz, I used to have happiness, and Anna reappears and goes, Lamau, you're so shit, you couldn't fight this terrifying 5-foot-tall fish man, and no, I couldn't, I can admit that, but Edward was fortunately programmed to be able to solo this without ever actually gaining experience, which is awesome because otherwise that would have sucked. In the morning, we gain access to our second character, the only time until way later that we'll have 2 playable party members. That being said, I opt to kill Rosa as well. I know, it's heresy, it's disgusting. Problem is, she doesn't have any real use right now. She's not that good at attacking in comparison to Rydia, and I'd rather keep this as a solo endeavor as it makes my ATB gauge usage much more chill. We head up to Mount Hobbs where there's a randomly unmelting chunk of ice in the way and no one in the world thinks a ladder would work, so Rosa encourages the traumatized child to shoot flame at it. Rydia thinks fuck it, we ball, and burns that ice wall down and gives us a straight shot up the mountain to fight Mom Bomb. Before the battle, though, we see a bald Chad man fighting some monsters. He's so cool. I love this guy, Yang. He's just awesome. Last bald guy in the series who punched things got crushed by a boulder released by a fat man, so it's an upgrade, to be honest. After we get into combat, it's actually kind of annoying to kill him to get us into our 1v1 environment. Yang just has a lot of health and it takes too long. I don't like it. And then Mom Bomb actually starts hitting hard enough. Rydia gets lower in single combat than she has in a while. This battle actually is a bit dicey, and for clarity, it wasn't nearly as bad in our first run. We'll play the footage side by side side here for clarification. Rydia with melee only requires so much more experience to have become strong enough to deal with both killing Yang and actually defeating the first form of the boss. There's a lot of back and forth brawling before Mom Bomb splits into 6 smaller bombs who just detonate on us immediately, requiring the use of one of our precious high potions. I'm saddened at having to do that despite our unfathomably high level, but it's acceptable. From now on, we are nearing the end of our girl's time to shine. This is the end of easy mode. From now on, there is nothing but uncertainty. For many reasons, the next chapter might be impossible, regardless of how well I've planned. But I make the effort, I do a ton of item grinding, and I get up to 93 potions. Yes, it was no fun, thanks for asking. 21 tenths, 19 high potions, 32 bronze hourglasses, and that trove of potions is what we're passing on to the future, entrusting that they can survive the harsh, horrible shit wilderness in Mysidia. At this point, the king's bed is available, which is hilarious. We just heap on top of that shit, which is partially annoying as it also resurrects all the people in my party again, but it's also a free heal for Rydia, so I don't have to risk or use anything. We just go and do that. After a while, I feel it's time. We can progress past this part of the game and go into uncharted territory, but before the cool and innovative parts, Edward needs to stop being a little bitch for a single moment. We go to the King of Fabul, and Yang informs him of the impending danger from Baron. He then looks over at Cecil and asks,
"Aren't you that fucking asshole?"
To which of course he denies. He hasn't killed anyone in a few days. We agree to defend the castle from an incoming siege, and we leave chapter 2. This is the smallest portion of the game where you need to use a man, and it's randomly atrocious. Yang, Kessel, and Edward decide they're caveman and need to protect women who are weak, despite Rydia being able to bench 500 pounds. The 2 women get left behind, and the 3 stooges go to deter the incoming invaders who are seeking to steal the crystal. So yeah, okay, this gauntlet takes incredible effort to get through. Edward has 81 health, which is comically bad. He barely can survive one hit from anything, and sometimes that proves to be too much. I don't view it as expressly cheating to let Edward attack the enemies while the other 2 try to kill themselves, because if Edward even gets touched once, he goes into hiding, his wonderful mechanic that makes my member go into hiding. It basically means unless he's the last surviving party member, he's dead if he gets hurt. Plus, when the other 2 are dead and it's just Edward, they have a high likelihood to hit him and put an end to the reign of man. In contrast, Edward needs to hit each regular soldier 3 times to fell them, and the captain needs like 8 hits. Fortunately, the captain doesn't actually attack and instead commands the soldiers, and if there's no more soldiers, he flees. I actually don't want that, as I need more experience for this fight to make the next ones tolerable, so I desperately play the ukulele at him with the hope they don't kill me. They kill me. I have a lot of attempts at this, and made worse by the fact that I have to keep talking to the king every single time. Our options for the fight actually include a healing ability in Salve, which fully restores Edward to full health, but the chance they miss and he heals and then resumes attacking and doesn't die is poor. Additionally, Edward can sing to inflict one of only 2 status effects on enemies, but guess what? It doesn't seem to do anything. Eventually, I get lucky with the enemy missing, and Edward slowly kills all 3 of them and gains 3 entire levels, which is great. Then we have to go against 3 enemies who are actually impacted by the status effects of Edward's regular attacks, which makes it easier. Another level gained and then more soldiers, and at this point we can run away with a win, which is grand. I'm so happy we never have to look at Edward again, except when all his bones are broken. He has to play the harp over Skype to let us fight an evil elf man in a magnet cave. If you haven't played Final Fantasy IV, you might think I'm lying about that. After 6 consecutive fights, which are still harrowing as Edward sucks so bad, we arrive in the crystal room and in walks Cain. He quite simply says fuck you, and 2 shots Dark Cock Shittle, who does what he does best, lays on the ground when massive Chad Golbez walks in and slaps Kane's ass and abducts Rosa. Golbez also simply states
"Fuck you."
Rydia heals the party, and the 3 grown men stare at the floor in sadness, and the little girl has to tell them that it's alright, we can go forth and do good and succeed. The king is positively gobsmacked at how much gob we do smack with our mouths and says, take my boat and sail into the most dangerous water in the world. Before the next section, I have to point out that when party members leave, regardless if they come back or not, they retain and effectively delete any equipment they have. So we take off all the stuff for our party, including Rydia, as we can never get the ice rod back again if we don't keep it now. We agree to head out on the boat and find Leviathan, who attacks. This is honestly stupidly terrifying. Imagine this happening to you. You're on a merchant vessel and suddenly a legendary beast rises from the depths, looks you in the face 40 miles away with a giant scary piercing ass eye glance, and then your favorite bard starts flying away. The little girl you saved gets eaten whole, and the happy bald man falls into the water as the world around you blends into nothing. Then, in a case of karmic retribution for being such a great upstanding guy, only Cecile wakes up on a beach alive. He stands and walks over to Mysidia, the place where he killed all those people 3 days ago. The townsfolk are not too happy to talk to him and call him various slurs, and he shamefully walks into the elder's house and starts to ask for help. The elder looks at him for a second and says,
"Aren't you that fucking asshole?"
The two talk for a moment, and after agreeing to be baptized, Sussel agrees to take two magic children with him up to a mountain. The twins of Palom and Porum are here, and let me just rename Porum something more befitting of her station, something to motivate us as we get mutilated, because this is going to be painful. So far, a lot of bosses and enemies have been tutorials, but that's supposed to end now. You're intended to have a lot more options and strategy. Per our rules, that makes this an absolute cock chapter. We take a few fights to purge our party of all our unwanted members, and we can go off into the wild. And there's a simple fact here, but Porum is dog shit. She can't do anything. The offensive potential here is astoundingly bad, considering that unlike Rydia, there isn't a healthy supply of fairly weak enemies. No, there's Zoes here. These flying titanic birds can eat you in a single bite. Gargoyles who cast weak porcupines that use heavy damage attacks in response to being hit physically. Zombies, skeletons, even the yellow soul from Final Fantasy 2. Yeah, no joke, it's here. It's like every nightmare I've ever had in one place. So yeah, You might think that Porum can equip and use the rods that we retain from Rydia, but no, she is unable to. Describe to me the difference between a staff and a rod, and why you could use one but not the other. You can't. Stop trying. I'm not listening. I won't read the comments. I won't watch the video response. I won't talk about it on the phone. It's asinine. Emphasis on the ass. So at this point, we have that crossbow and the limited supply of arrows, but nothing around here can replenish those, so sadly, it's not going to be used yet. We need to keep those for an upcoming boss. Yeah, speaking of that, what's really good, it's Porums Chapter. We gotta fight Luigi Scarlamione and Cagnazo. I can't think of a joke for him. He's a turtle man, but those are the two of the four elemental fiends. We're getting out of ourselves. Let's figure out how to gain one experience point. Porum's best attack is sadly a regular staff. There's no ability to get anything else. Porum can't find a better staff. There was no better staff to get in Rydia's section, and while there is a healing staff being sold from the general store, which would double our strength, it doesn't exist anywhere naturally in the game. So yeah, there's a lot of enemies in this region, and none of them are available. We can't beat anything. Save for one singular group, and it is imps to the rescue again. And I just want to get this out of the way, but if you're allowed to use magic like in our first run, you can do something way easier. You could go up to Mount Hobbs and use Cure on undead enemies, and then go to the nearby Chocobo Forest to restore your mana with a white Chocobo. This way you can fully heal yourself, go back and forth, just get lots more experience, and it's a way better time. But now we have to find a way to get to not only an extremely high level, but we have to survive for so long killing only imps. Hence those potions we got. This is the singular group of monsters Porum can melee to death, and it takes like 2 minutes per battle if I'm being exceptionally generous. And like I said, it's not all. It's lucky if I can survive. Porum in the back row in the middle position is like having Stevie Wonder driving you around. We can't hit anything. Although I suppose Stevie Wonder could probably hit things while driving. That would be counterproductive, my point. Okay, I'm convinced. Submit your favorite blindness joke and we'll put it in the video, and then I'll give you a trip to Disneyland with me in your car. I will fucking annihilate Mickey Mouse the moment we arrive. Huh? You want to talk about the game? Well, to be honest, this is no exaggeration, the worst grind I've ever done in any game ever. It is ridiculous we're even still playing, and the amount of time it takes one little girl in the woods to punch thousands of imps to death is heinous, and if not for their dropping of regular and high potions, the game would be over. By the time I get to the level I need, I'll probably have gone through thousands of these. I mean, this is the rhythm. You run until you find them. You punch and miss until the cows come home, just to gain 1 level, 2, 3, 10, 15, 30. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't improve much. Porum gains melee stats so insanely slowly that we don't get better, but the experience grows needy almost immediately. The group gives 800 experience per victory. To get 3 hits, it requires 70,000 experience. That's when we can expect to do 5 more damage than we're currently doing every swing. Then it takes 136,000 total to get a 4th, and then 2.5 million to get a 5th, and then it's time for random stat growth. Yes, we have not talked about how developers Gassier Nibelli, or whatever his name is at this point, didn't think anyone would ever get to a high level, and if you did, fuck you. You start gaining stats in reverse. Yes, every character at 70 has a table of 8 choices that randomly are chosen and dictates how they level up. And for some reason, there's selections that are purely bad, and what this means is that Porum has a very strict growth possibility, and I don't know if we'll ever actually get the ability to defeat the bosses required to move on. And it's kind of stupid because Porum just got really bad possibilities, but someone like Edward has the chance to get the Meat Lover's Special, 4 to nearly every stat per level. Suppose that makes up for the fact that you only have him through 3% of the game and no one has ever bothered to get him to level 70. Regardless, what is obvious, but I have to spend forever punching imps. The other enemies are strictly off the table, at least for 30 levels or so. And that's that's it. This is our realm of influence. You can't travel, you can't skip. You are here on the peninsula of Porum, a place from which you'll become massive, the biggest little girl imaginable, until we can defeat the two fiends for this section of the game. Before that, you meet back up with Tella, who sadly does not possess anything useful to bonk shit with. Get on the ground, male. He's here to become a mighty sage, by the way, which is funny. This is also where you become a mighty paladin, but in reality, it's where a little girl becomes a massive chat, and to make that a reality, we have to defeat Lamia, the fiend of poison. Or earth, I don't remember. I don't care at this point. I'm killing imps in the woods. He is not going to be easy. He has two separate forms with 3,500 health each. Yeah, the footage speaks for itself. It is funny though, upon entering this mountain, you get a cutscene of Golbez being contracted by Lamia, who claims that he is definitely the man to slaughter Kekel, and Golbez allows him to go. Imagine his embarrassment when one toddler toddles all over his balls. Twice. Like I said though, this is not a quick endeavor. We'll give it a good try. You know, in the Magic Run, this grind is 100 billion times easier, as you can fight high XP, granting enemies amount ordeals. You could get better white magic to kill them with. You get the levels, and then you just learn Holy, the sole offensive white magic spell in the game. Does like 8,000 damage per use, and yes, Porum is her. But without magic, Porum is not her. There's not much to say other than fuck! Could have put on James Cameron's Titanic like 15 times in a row by the time we end up getting to 52. It's doable. You can grind. I hate this shit so bad. Thousands of fights, thousands of times holding the button, just waiting, looking for imps, zoes, fighting porcupines. Oh my god, alright, well, finally, I want to see if this shit is over. I walk up the mountain and engage with the first of the four fiends. In this first form, he comes with four skull nants. You know, they look like zombies to me, but what kind of shit do I know? In this battle, from the back row, I deal about 50 damage on average a hit, which isn't bad, honestly. It's good enough, it's okay. He spams lightning every single round. It's not great, it's going badly. Porum can handle this though. Her head is insulated with rubber, and with 24 high potions to my name, I can attrition my way up to 3,500 damage. We win round 1. A quick heal in a tent brings us back to full health. We save and head into the second form. There's not much to this one. You sit in the back row and get into an almighty battle. Porum hits just about as hard as before, and Skarm now poisons, which is just a large hiccup. Fortunately, there is an incredible use for the staff. It cures poison for free. Honestly, has anyone ever used this item for that purpose? The fight in general is harrowing, with many high potions being needed, but we succeed and fell the fiend once again. After this, Key and Peaceil walks into a chamber of becoming swole and is met with a vision of himself. The lesson he learns here is that not every battle requires violence, a lesson he takes far too well, as he will never attack anything again. After this, Tella has a revelation and realizes he knows every single spell in the game, but his mana sucks ass, and therefore he goes back to bed. We have slain thousands with one bloodstained cane, and now it's time to bring retribution to the kingdom of Baron. They really fucked up making an enemy of this one little girl. We walk back to the elder, who forgot who we were because we left so long ago, but then remembers our goal and is impressed that Kekel is a righteous warrior now. It's time for a hurdle unlike one you've ever seen. Figen and Kazu stand in our way, the final battles that Porum has to overcome, and I'll spoil it, Kazu won't be beatable. Or maybe it will be, I don't know, let's see. Before that, we have to reach the castle properly. We can use this transportation system called the Devil's Pass to reach the part of the world where Baron is, but guards bar our entry to the throne room. So if you're never sure what to do, you just go and drink alcohol. And that's when we notice Yang is sitting around here. He looks at us and remembers how we killed him on sight last time we met, and he gets up to attack, and this fight is ridiculous. He sicks 2 guards on us, and I learned via my magic run that these guys are run enders unless we stop them via a bronze hourglass. They cast mini and fuck you up like crazy amounts of damage. So we have to fully stop them and then quickly win. Then Yang himself, and okay, I think there's a bug here for how the game calculates Yang's health, or it's programmed to be weird, but it's finally time for me to explain something. But characters you have already had in your party once will still gain experience in the background while they're not with you. Meaning Rydia, Rosa, Kane, and Yang are all now around the same level as Porum, which is great for Rydia and Rosa. More on that later. It's very important for Rosa. But Yang has insane stats, and I have no idea how much health he's supposed to have. It's not able to be documented online for some reason. That being said, I load up the crossbow and pelt this bitch with my entire supply of non-holy arrows, and he's just standing tall, punching a little girl down to 400 HP. I run out of arrows, so that means I just attacked like 40 times, and I break out the staff and keep going. There's blood everywhere, People are screaming. They're scared of this calamity. 3 men are dead. It's just chaos. I start having to use high potions and just wonder if this slugfest will ever end. And yes, eventually it's over. Honestly, kind of a miracle. I was running out of stuff. After that, Yang says, "Sorry, my brain wang." And I say, "It's fine. You're back to our side. You now only have 4,000 health points, big boy." My God. We go outside and slowly break our party down to its barest atoms. Then it's time to fight Figen, one of the classically hard fights in the game. You know, he first approaches Chessel and acts like, "My brother, you are back. We need to approach the king together." And that's what makes this obviously a trap, is the fact that 4 days ago, no reasonable person likes Cecil. So Porum says, "Square up, bitch," and we're off. And oh boy, it's not good news. Figen has 3 separate components, being his head and his 2 arms and his big dick. And his left arm casts bind and makes you unable to act, and his dick is big, and his right arm casts suck and hurts you, and inflicts sap to boot, which drains health per every ATB tick, I think. I actually don't know for certain. It just burns. The arms don't technically have a lot of health, but it's a lot for Porum. You know, they die fast enough. The problem is, if you kill both, he'll resurrect them immediately, meaning you can't restrict his strength completely. Figen is very hard. We die on our first attempt, where we go for killing his binding arm, and the sap damage just really starts killing you more than you can imagine. He also hastes both arms, which sucks. I actually have an item that inflicts slow, which would help, but those are premium, and even if I threw it at him, he'd just undo the effect immediately. Several attempts pass with me trying to destroy one arm or the other, but if I leave the sapping one alive, I get overwhelmed, so it's me and the grippy arm in a great tangle. Finally, we have the run where enough heals keeps me alive, and we batter his body to death. On fight win, he detonates any of his surviving limbs, and they deal several hundred damage each, which is annoying. It means I need enough padding to endure. After this, we go back to the save point in the underwater walkway and use a precious tent to fully heal. I save and I return to Kazu, the second fiend, and without a doubt, the first boss that seems to be impossible. Which, if you know the game well, is a funny statement, because Kazu is honestly very easy, while the mechanic is that you have to interrupt his gathering waves with a lightning-based attack, lest you want to eat a full party hitting tidal wave attack that does hurt significantly. That's all it is. Use lightning and he dies very easily. And there's not a lot here that needs to be said. The tidal wave, while being something we cannot remotely stop him from spamming, is weak enough for us to endure. The damage he deals, while sufficient to kill us fast enough to worry about, isn't extreme. The real problem is that this boss is a damage race, and if you don't kill him fast enough, he can't die. Here's how this goes. Porum does mediocre damage at best, and that's fine until he reaches 10% total health. At that point, he begins recovering 531 health every 3 attacks or so. That means unless I average higher than 531 damage in 3 strikes, he will never die. That is why we brought the fucking arsenal. 1 crossbow. I mean, it's scary enough. I wouldn't want to be hit by that. The crossbow with holy arrows aren't all we're going to go with. We're dropping acid. I'm kidding, we already did, but we're going to eat Bacchus's wine, and we're popping on Hermes' sandals. These 2 items give you berserk and haste respectively. I've withheld these from you, but they make the run insanely better. Both are premier. While I can later farm Bacchus's wine, there are only 6 Hermes sandals in the game. This is one of the few times I definitely need to use them, just to get beyond the threshold of healing Kazu has coming out of his ass. But with haste, you get more actions, and berserk removes your ability to control your character, but increases your attack power by 50%. So yeah, incredibly helpful. Now, with all this juice, Porum can hit over 100 damage pretty reliably. Our damage seems to be definitely high enough at first, but then something weird happens. The defense must go up. You start doing a lot less. Once he gets to his heal phase, I seem to cap out about 350 damage to his 531 healing. This could also relate to a bug maybe, because under berserk you don't run out of arrows, and I should be. I fired way more than I have, but maybe the bow animation is erroneously playing and I am instead punching now. So I think maybe I can keep arrows for the end of the fight, and I try again by using the wine and arrows later on in the health pool. Doesn't change anything, fucking game. On the magic run, by the way, you use the spell holy 1 time and he dies.
Lamau.
I try 4 times in a row, screaming at the walls that I can't go back to the woods anymore. I don't have it in me. But upon failing, I realize Porum yearns for the woods, and I go pick up some stakes and get ready to juice her up again. 4 fucking levels later, which is abnormal to grind, we end up at 56 and try again. That is still not enough. Porum mostly hits over 100 damage every time, even nearly up to 200, but it dies out right at the end again, just falling short slightly. Desperately hoping that just a little more damage will push it over, but he seems to even start healing faster and faster. I just know we're not out of the woods yet. That is clever writing. Oh, I just wrote writing with an R. R-I-G-H-T-I-N-G. All right, who wants to come with me to the brain doctor? We're back in the woods. The mountains, gathering strength, biding our time, the blood of thousands covering me. This bitch is gonna get sticked. 5 hits at level 67. It was the longest grind you can ever imagine. I mean, it was like 120 hours, but still, genuinely, from me to you, some of the worst shit I've ever done. I'm not doing it again. 5 is going to be worse. I realized something from our past attempts as well, but for some reason the strongest weapon is not the pathetic bow or the weathered staff, but it's my own body, the body that is tempered in combat, and we go in unarmed. No joke, the 6-year-old is going to punch him to death. Reason is that's the highest accuracy we can obtain with our selectable weapons. I think that's why it matters. I don't know. It just does the most, it seems. So I deal about, nearly 300 damage a punch sometimes as one single little tiny girl punching an elemental fiend to death as Golbez watches and throws up in disgust at how useless his minions are. We reach the final phase and see that blue-headed stupid fucking bastard dickhead piece of shit freshly prepared dinner fade into dust and make way for Porum to die to a wall. Yeah, sorry, but that's the end of Porum's journey. I am genuinely sad we are stuck with no women. That's the name of my upcoming book. It's the old man chapter. Now at this point, we are devoid of any female party member and we're stuck using Sid. And yes, Tella could be and probably would be worse in the long run, but he's so much higher level right now than Sid. He's been in the party. Beyond the fact that Sid is slow, he has terrible stats at the moment and all of that, honestly, I'd like to stop using a fucking staff. We are given an airship for the first point in the story, and that's cool. That lets us go anywhere, except there's few places Sid can actually survive on his own. To be honest, I traveled to the current objective and he just gets smashed, meaning we have to level grind. And not really only for the sake of the regular encounters, but the upcoming boss of the Dark Elf is unbelievably out of Sid's league. Before we do anything though, Kane pulls up and says, "Hey yo, I'm a piece of shit," and asks us to trade the nearby crystal from the town of Troya for Rosa's life. We would take on this guy now, but he's actually so insanely strong from Porum's grind that we'd get washed. Although we actually do have Yang over there in the corner. Bro is a tank, he can do something. Anyway, we agree, I guess, because fuck it, and we are now free to roam. Now we can go and pick up many items around the world, like in the village of Mist, there's some bomb fragments and a change rod, and we can go to a different city and get the mithril staff. If only this graced Porum's grasp, but alas, the game sucks ass. There's all sorts of stuff to bolster us, and if we could go and buy stuff, we could make Sid a lot better, but we can't do that, so nope. Honestly, all we got to do is go back to Mount Ordeals and bonk zombies and spirits in the most familiar gameplay loop ever. We grind as long as we can, and then fly back to Kekel's bed, snooze, resurrecting the party, kill everyone, back to Mount Ordeals, and eventually we are exceptionally high level. I mean, relatively. Porum was way higher, but he's fine. The goal is to get Troya's crystal back from the magnetic cave where the malicious Dark Elf controls it. In there, you can't bring any metal equipment or else you're paralyzed, and being the only party member with that status ailment means you just die. So, with a tiny wooden mallet, we traveled to meet our destiny. Before that, though, you have to meet up with Edward, who has all of his bones broken for some reason. The little girl who was eaten by a mythical sea creature had no injuries, but this guy who fell into water nearly died immediately. Little bitch boy again. What have I said? Fucking men, right? 95% male audience. Anyway, he daps us up and says, "Go get the Dark Elf for me. I'll support you with sick beats." Say, what the fuck are you talking about, Edward? We go off and find the cave. Enemies in here are terrifying, like the Corel, who responds to taking physical damage by using Blaster, an instant killing attack, so we don't mess with them. Instead, as usual, we run downstairs in a blinding fashion and arrive at the crystal room and throw down. My dear God. I don't have confidence Sid can do this, but I guess if Porum can do her part, Sid can do his. The Dark Elf has a lot of spells and he attacks really fast, including using Weak, which reduces you to nearly dead no matter what your health is, putting you around 7 total. The combo potential is heinous, it's anus, it's lame as hell. I can't beat this guy. We've ground so much, we've powered up, and it's a long cutscene every attempt, watching as Edward plays his harp to give his energy to do things he never could, like succeed in life. You can eventually batter the first form to death, but that's the funny thing, he has 2 forms, oh boy. The second form of this guy is impossible. He just nukes you too fast. He moves almost 2 times faster than Sid, and considering he hits for over 400 a turn, I don't have either the healing or the damage to push past this part. And yeah, if we review our original run, which is identical to this one, I was having the same problem. And that's honestly where I'd let the story end, because this just sucks. It's just, he uses Weak, he puts you to nothing, you beat his first form, and then he kills you every time. Except, for some reason, this boss does not resist the bronze hourglass. Are we sure Nasser is not still working here? No, but honestly, you can just stop the boss and kill him with no opposition. I mean, no one has ever checked this. There's no information on that. This is the first time that's been done. And yeah, that's what we does, and yes, we wins. Sid then grabs the crystal and leaves the dungeon, and it's time to trade this to reach the Tower of Zot, where Rosa is being kept, and we're pretty in the clear. Sid can clear every encounter in the dungeon pretty easily, including the boss of the Magus Sisters. For the record, we'll just show you that encounter with them, as it took me like 10 tries on my first playthrough because the 3 deal surprisingly annoying damage and assist each other. The middle one resurrects the others if they die. Sid uses ape strength and bonks them very quickly. That's how he gets around that, so you can just see it wasn't a crazy debate on how to succeed. This place in general is not my concern. It's not the part I'm worried about. It's directly following this that the challenge is over. That's why we have to pivot our focus to the first successful run, and I'll show you what happens when you reach the 3rd fiend, Barbarisha. I don't know if that's pronounced right. I'm sorry. Just doesn't matter. Watch or kill me. So after killing 3 women hater Sid goes into the next room and Golbez is there, which makes Tello wake up from his nap and try to kill him immediately. He throws a bunch of spells out and Golbez goes like this, and then Tello says bet and whips out his massive throbbing Meteo and drops it on his head. He wins the fight, but it kills him to do so, and all that actually achieved is to release Kane from his mind control, which is a net negative, Tello. Kane nearly has 6,000 HP and it's gonna take me forever to chop him down. Although Kane probably likes the prospect of Rosa beating his ass with a stick. Speaking of, we go into the next room over and retrieve Rosa, who is level 55 in this first run. She can now be equipped with some decent stuff, including a Sage's Robe we got in here, that Mithril Staff we picked up back when we first got Sid, and in general, she's looking alright. 7 attacks, 23 attack power. Okay, that's not fantastic, but 7 attacks, it's the most we've had in our female party member section so far. But you aren't allowed to leave the dungeon, or this room even, without fighting this next boss fight, and I don't know where to start. How about we start with the fact that she's immune to all fucking spells for some reason. I mean, you could barely have spells to hit her with. I'm surprised they programmed that. Barbarika has a gimmick where she has 2 forms, the first being regular old naked woman. The second, she's a living tornado who won't leave that form unless hit by Kane's jump. Oh, great game designers. You need a man to hit the woman. When she's spinning, she'll hit you with tornado, which takes away 99% of your HP, and then she can just tap you once and you'll die. Additionally, she uses Ray, a petrifying move that works in stages. You slowly turn more and more to stone, and you can only survive 3 of them before the 4th one instantly kills you. She's immune to magic. That is where this run ended. Because now I don't have a choice. You have to physically attack to win, and it's not good news. She has 8,636 health, and we're not suited to a fast victory. With magic allowed, I can do a few things like cast Reflect on myself to repel tornado. That is a saving grace, but sadly, with Reflect applied, I can't heal myself with spells anymore, as those will also bounce off. Fortunately, Asuna won't bounce off, so you can heal the Ray Petrify if you need. So you can just turtle moderately well, right? Well, no, she just hits you hard as fuck then. And she's fast. She's so fast you can't keep up, even with haste applied. I spent several attempts just imagining the chance I'd get to attack her, and eventually I realized it's an insurmountable climb. If you spend time healing, you're not hitting. If you spend time hitting, you're not going to live. The best strategy I had was to toss on a reflex spell and get to work with both the Mithril Staff and this great bow I picked up before the Tower of Zot. It wasn't worth mentioning how I found a bow upgrade back then because both options are total ass. The great bow gives you 15 power and the Mithril Staff gives you 12, but with surprisingly a bit more accuracy than the bow. Still, these are total garbage. The best hit I ever had was like the mid-hundreds, with some hits being as low as 40, but then most times I just missed anyway. That's the funny thing, there's just no good weapons to pick up anywhere, nothing that can make Rosa stronger. I scoured my online resources, frustrated that there's actually no way to do this. There's no amount of firepower that will pave the way for this to be possible. I've barely done maybe 1,000 damage on my best attempt. There is no way I can win this fight, even if I got to 99, and don't forget, I'd have to use Sid to do that in the background, and that means I'd have no control over her post-level 70 stat growth. It'd be a random outcome, and more likely than not, she could actually lose power from getting that high up. Plus, the health you gain is irrelevant because Barbarika uses Tornado. We have a Bacchus wine and we can give ourselves Berserk, but it doesn't matter, who cares, and then we can't heal or repair anything. It becomes a literal death brawl where one of us will fall down first, and it will always be Rosa. By the way, Kane has to chime in every single time you attack without jumping first because he's a dickhead. Under the effect of Berserk, Rosa does do more, but not nearly enough, and for clarification, if you use jump once, you could one-shot her with the use of Holy, so yeah, it's that close to being easy, under the rules of magic allowed, of course. I'm feeling pretty bad about this one because it's kind of far into the challenge, and you know, it's not a fact of grinding, we are statistically always going to fall short. And then I found something that changes everything. The gleaming, shining spot for this run revealed itself to me, a weapon that is ridiculous, that no one has ever bothered to use for anything. It actually can be picked up, a rare drop from the marionette in here. It is the strongest staff in the game, the Rune Staff. fucking thing has 52 power. Also, it has the highest accuracy among all the other weapons as well. So that means more hits, more damage, more chance to actually win. Thing is, hits rare, but we needed to grind like crazy anyway. Rosa in this run is only 55. We'll get back to the real timeline in a second, but I'll show you as the strategy develops. We have to run around as Sid again and grind exclusively the marionette enemy. But the thing is, I didn't even show you something that's quite helpful, but everything in here drops amazing stuff. We've got tents, cabins, items that cast blink on user. Basically, we can fully and freely supply Sid with items to grind more and more. Also, all the excess cabins moving forward will be remarkably useful. Parked in the back row, Sid binks targets around here for a while, and I mean honestly several hours, and it drops the rune staff. With this and all the new experience we've gained, it's time to walk back to Barbarica and give it our final chance. Now level 65, Rosa goes from 7 attacks with 26 damage to 7 attacks with 76 damage, with also a 10% increase in accuracy. And the strategy is simple. Get into the fight, hope to not suffer an immediate tornado as that's an instant loss. Put up Reflect, put on Hermes sandals, and use the Bacchus wine, turn Final Fantasy IV into a hyper auto battler. With all these conditions met, Rosa starts hitting up to nearly 900 at best, which is wild. It's a race still. We cannot Reflect Ray, and with Berserk enabled, we can't heal it either. Sid and Kane are sadly still alive too long and act like potential shields for both effects, but they do their best to kill themselves as soon as possible. There's really no way for me to assist in doing that. I take the benefit of their dying bodies intercepting stuff. I'm sure eventually with some ridiculous luck, they could be dead first and then I could do all the stuff in the game. It's just, give me something, please. After several attempts of still failing, it's looking much more possible. I still have the potential to be struck down, especially through status effects, but since Tornado can't hit me, I know this is doable. And it does work. Eventually, Rosa manages to outpace her and we get to see life beyond the tower. In the original run, back in the harder challenge, you might remember, but we can't cast Reflect. So yeah, thanks for playing. Good game, Top Keckle. I planned all the stuff out in the background with this run, so I knew about the rune staff, I knew about her attack patterns, all that, and now Rosa is level 70, max power, as good as it can get. And yeah, you can't survive with Tornado being on the table. You might think, is it luck dependent, or is there a chance I can deal damage quick enough regardless of the spell? And yes, actually, the attack can miss for some reason. I think it has something to do with willpower, and sometimes she will whiff when using it, but it's way too rare to rely on, and she needs to miss it several times. And like I said, if it lands, I will die really quick. Unless she literally has 1% health remaining, I just can't do that. And yeah, I need to keep Bacchus's wine on the whole fight. I'm dealing over 1,000 damage with Rosa, which is ridiculous. Otherwise, under 500 often makes it take too long. And in the first run, I could use Curaja to fully heal, but I can't do that now, and I have no elixirs to my name, so I have no way to significantly impact my health. So yeah, it's looking like, for the first time, we answered the question. You cannot beat the game without magic under these rule sets. But what if I told you, quite simply, fuck magic, we don't need it, it's dog. There is an item in the game that casts a Reflect on a user called the Star Veil. This is all we need, we just need one. It doesn't drop around here. And this is really just a kick to the balls. You know, there's actually 2 different items that do cast Reflect, but they drop from only a few select things in the game. The Star Veil comes from only 4 enemies, the soonest to meet being the Lamia. But she is in the Tower of Babel, the other tower in 4. Good dungeon idea, but yeah, point is, unavailable. But by all the fucking luck in the world, there is actually a singular Lamia in the game before this point. In a chest in Eblin Castle, there is a spiked enemy encounter. Inside is a Lamia, who is actually fairly impossible to solo as she counters physical attacks with charm, which just makes me die since she comes with 2 Corals who just use the blaster instant kill. Okay, good. Bronze Hourglass, will you marry me? But then the question becomes, can you get item drops from enemies in spiked treasure chests? This particular one always drops the Blood Spear, and I become concerned that unfortunately standard drops don't get to exist in these instances. Then after like 40 attempts, I find a Lamia Harp. That's not what we need, but it proves that her drops actually do work. So unless this becomes a Tower of Owen situation from Final Fantasy III, where the drop table information is wrong, it's only a matter of time. And the matter of time was like 200 attempts, but then it happened. We have a Light Veil to our name. This is our arsenal, the same game plan as before, and I want you to take in our kill because it really is something beautiful. We get into the fight, we put up all the buffs, she just kind of sucks and doesn't do anything to Rosa, and bing, 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 dead. You cannot call me not cool. Is that right? You cannot call me not cool. Yeah, that's right. I'm cool. The game is now open to us, and Rosa uses exit after we have to win that fight. Okay, thanks for making that happen, and warps us right into Keckle's bedroom, right in front of Kane. Damn, savage. The gang discusses what to do now, and it's revealed that there's crystals to collect under the earth, so we are tasked with opening a big ass hole at some random mountain. Of course, first thing I do is go outside and kill everyone with my max-powered buff Rosa, and fly over to open up the underground world. Once here, we're caught between a war between Golbez's forces and the dwarves, which makes poor sense. We just opened the hole to get here, so why is anybody else here? Regardless, we lose our wings for a moment and arrive at the dwarven castle where the king really trusts us to do something crazy and immediately for no reason. Probably intimidated by Rosa's outrageous biceps, he lets us into the back room to take the crystal off their hands. And back here is our final solo fight of the run, Calcibrina. This fight is hard, but it can be easy. I just fail at making it easy. There are 6 dolls that are very simple to defeat in this form, but if you clear out an entire color of them, the boss forms into a mega doll and it's a lot worse. I think the mechanic is if you kill 5 of the small dolls, the big one gets much less HP, or might just seem that way, I don't know. Rosa has good offense, but sadly the use of charm makes me put my spells to very bad use by buffing and healing the boss. Using holy to instantly kill myself, casting slow on myself, and the only way out of this stun lock is to whack myself with my own very large stick. Basically, if she combines into the large boss, I've lost. We quite easily succeed if we do the alternate method of killing the small dolls first. Once you do it correctly, the big boss has minimal health and we are lucky enough to win. Then it's the showdown. The big bad Golbez. Chad walks down into the arena and looks at his brother, spoiler, in the face and realizes he has never won a single fight as a paladin. Then laughs at how easy this is going to be. And yeah, maybe a slight disappointment and fun fact, but old Syl needs to be alive for this fight, otherwise the story event can't take place and the game is over. If you consider it cheating that I have to use a Phoenix down to resurrect my bum-ass boyfriend and then let him die the instant the real fight begins, then I'm sorry, that's the run. You need him to be standing upright. He doesn't even act, he just has to be alive because Golbez petrifies everyone in the party and systematically uses an instant kill ability down the line except when he reaches Cecil. Then Rydia swoops in and saves his life and the real fight begins. So yeah, we do that. Rydia comes in, Golbez just still backhands his brother to death, and then Rydia whips his balls 5 times and the fight's over. I understand your pain, Goobez. Yeah, fortunately, Rydia has been hitting the gym for 17 years and is a fully fledged swole adult now. Oh yeah, I didn't really explain. I mean, Rydia was swallowed by Leviathan, brought her to the land of the summons, and she ages faster there and shit. It's been like 1 day since that happened, but you know, fine. That brings us to the final chapter, our gauntlet through bosses with up to 6-figure health values and uncharted territory with Rosa and Rydia together at last. Now that we have a full party of 2, we can try to speedrun around, but some of the hardest encounters in the game are coming up, requiring us to deal a ton of damage. There's not a lot of pathways to that possibility, but as we go further in, we'll get the chance to start having more ultimate weapons. Sadly, with one singular exception, Rosa is almost at her peak in terms of power, and Rydia will have to be the heavier hitter in the end. The Tower of Babel is a straightforward enough dungeon, which leads the party up to seeing the 4th and final fiend, Rubicante, standing there looking badass and leaving you to fight a dickhead named Dr. Lugay. It might be Lug. I always said Lugay. I don't know if that's what it is. I'm not sure. Lugay. It's alright. Before we get to him, we can pick up a beret and then, you know, a power ring from the castle as well, which gives Rydia more strength. She's doing very well right now with a mithril knife equipped, having 8 attacks at 47 damage with a 99% chance to hit, which means she'll pump like 500 damage an attack, but you know, still, it's good. As we scale the tower, some things become apparent and annoying to consider, like how I need to level up near save points now so I can fish for the actual productive levels. If I'm not able to guarantee that the result is at least not negative, then I'll have to avoid gaining experience. At the fight with Dr. Lug and his monster Barnabas, we get to work and beat the shit out of them. With just punching, we take care of Barnabas quickly, which makes the 2 of them combine to become an old man and a broken man. And that doesn't change much about the fight. There's more hitting until he says, fine, piece of shits, and self-destructs, dealing 1500 damage to Rydia, which is not great, as you go straight into a far harder battle with his second undead form. Now, in the original run, I was still playing, and this fight proved to be insanely hard. He spends his time inflicting sleep and poison on the party and then whips out the death beam and just destroys us. The beam does over 1,000 to both Rosa and Rydia, and healing it is a very annoying prospect as he doesn't give it a rest, he just keeps doing it. This is where I can bring up the great boon of Rosa's Prey ability. On use, it restores several hundred points to the both of our health pools and is free, which is awesome. What isn't awesome is that Prey doesn't work 80% of the time, it's able to be reflected, and after a certain point, it's not healing nearly enough for us to survive fights. But this also means we can pray in random encounters to fully heal the party wherever we are. Against Dr. Lugay, this is really desperate. If she misses a prayer, we'll probably just die, but the good news is that I was expecting this fight to chug ass, so we're strong enough and prepared enough to slow the game down, enjoy some healing, and just stab him to death with Rydia. After you kill him a 3rd time, he says he has set us up the bomb, and we get pissed and run downstairs. Inside is some imps, and Yang, yeah, he's still here actually, decides to be a hero and blow himself up. He survives this gesture. Final Fantasy IV, everybody. We say damn and walk outside when Golbez gets on the PA and says,
I'm gonna have to kill you now by burning bridge. Thanks for coming. I can't be bothered to come down there and kill you myself.
and we run and get scooped up by Sid, who saves us with the repaired airship. He's like, oh yeah, I'm so cool, when suddenly we're in pursuit from bigger, more attractive and virile airships. Sid is sad and says, I shan't see you become a dad, but too bad, and jumps off the airship with a bomb in his fucking hand, and it blows up to let us escape the underground. He survives this gesture. No, good. I'm glad. He's a great guy. I'm so glad he lived there. Now that the underground is sealed, we have to go back to Baron to have Sid's lackeys put a claw arm on the airship, allowing us to move the hoverboat and give us access to the Cave of Eblin. Seems like the hardest way to do that, but fine. Build a claw arm on my airboat, good sir. We get all the story stuff done, but we're gonna go tackle something else first that's really random. Inside the Magnet Cave are ogres, and they drop not only Bacchus's wine, which is insane, but also the Giant's gloves, the best in-slot accessory for Rydia in the entire game. Why she is among the melee characters who can use this item, a pair of giant-ass metal gauntlets, I don't know, but I know it gives you an entire additional hit and is sick. During this time, we start gaining our first levels together, and we start to have to save scum to ensure we get the best results. It's enjoyable. I love it. I'm actually in here for way too long, several hours, and end up never finding the very rare gauntlets. I get a lot of wine though, crushed in the cheeks of these ogres, and decide to move on. A couple other enemies drop the gloves, so we can see if it naturally happens as we progress. The Cave of Eblin is a short dungeon and has some more good items in here. I haven't expressly mentioned, but we are finally getting a few elixirs, and they are being saved for later. You can't farm them remotely well at all in this game. And honestly, I am saving them all for one specific boss. In here is a spiked chest with steel golems, by the way, another enemy that drops the giant gloves. So yeah, like the Lamia from earlier, I farmed this hoping it will work out again. It's another couple hours wasted, and it's actually really wasted this time. I didn't collect anything. After that pain in the brain, we get to go see Rubicante shit on Edge, and we recruit him into our ranks. He was more excited than he should have been seeing two extremely buff women holding a whip and another holding a big metal stick. Also, one of them was wearing a beret. Edge is a ninja from Eblin. He's cool, I guess. I like Edge. He edged my dick off. We arrive at a secret entrance to the Tower of Babel, and again we go through the wall thanks to Edge being good at walking through walls apparently. You know, we kill him for that. Inside here is the Mad Ogre, and I decide to farm this mob. It's our last enemy with the potential to drop the gloves we so badly want. Plus there's more wine to cover the rest of the game, so that's cool too. It takes like an afternoon, but we find them, which is great. It means I never have to change this slot again. Thing is, I have to dip into my limited Phoenix Down supply here as well, among my extremely dwindled hourglasses, since there's core elves and Lamias who inflict those nasty status effects we've mentioned a lot. Plus, his healing just sucks majorly. We are constantly low and having to pray, and to make these grinds easier, I spend most of the time in the front row, but then I take more damage, so I go to the back row, and then I take longer to win fights, and the point is, I can't be happy. Want to mention there's a scripted encounter where Edge's parents fight you because they were turned into beasts from like Alice in Assland, and it really angers Edge. He almost wakes up from his nap for this. I didn't have anywhere else in the script to put this. It's not that important, but you can't lose the fight. Anyway, after we're done farming and Rydia is at her pinnacle, we have to go fight Rubicon. And okay, I'm sorry to do this again, but the interesting fights stem from our original magic run still, and it made me realize I was going to loathe doing this shit without spells. Rubicon slaps so incredibly hard. His single target spell Inferno can deal damage in the 2000s, and he himself has 34,000 HP. As this is a race against the clock, it's hard to balance offense and defense. An all-out brawl proves to suck. As you can see, I was trying to see how much physically hitting him would even work, and it didn't go so well. I lost several times before resorting to using Holy and Flare on repeat, which destroyed him, but back to our real boy run, I have a better grasp on what to do. I can equip Rosa with the killer bow and ice arrows, to which she has a weakness to, being the firefucker, of course. And then Rydia gets her good old covered in imp-ass ice rod, and while not extremely physically strong, it has that ice affinity, which makes it great against Rubicon. Annoyingly, he heals the entire party at the fight, so I have to waste the first few rounds using high damage spells to kill everyone. Once alone and using Bacchus's wine on Rydia and Rosa, we go ape shit. I mean, look at that damage. Over 3,000 in attack in some instances. And then we die and lose. Okay, it is a race after all. On the next attempt, I forgot to change equipment correctly, and so I'm dead again. Thank you. Finally, on our fourth go, we just wreck. It really is satisfying seeing the massive numbers here. He dies and we can move on. You can steal a ship to leave here, and why not? These guys have way better airships than that dead guy Sid could make. Except for some arbitrary reason, we can't fly over lava now, so we have to fly back to the dwarf castle, where we are remiss to mention we have failed at every single thing we we have tried to do. The king says, okay, there's one more crystal to retain to prevent Golbez from destroying the world. Let's open up the sealed door and have you, useless paladin man, take your band of 2 extremely big women, a small ninja no one cares about, and that panting guy with red eyes who's totally on the level. Like, honestly, look at him. He's so trustworthy. I have never had more confidence that Kane is a good guy to bring along. We get the airship repaired and upgraded to fly over lava by Sid, by the way. He's here just snoozing, and considering he had like 40 sticks of dynamite blow him up 4 hours ago, he's doing pretty well. He's just a little tuckered. More importantly, from the king, we are given the key to the sealed cave, and the game is over again, I'm sorry to report. Let me explain why this dungeon is a conundrum. The sealed cave is weird. It has doors you need to open, and upon opening them, you have to fight the trapdoor enemy. These guys open the fight by using lock-on and then an instant kill spell on 2 random party members. Guess how many party members we have alive at a given time? So yeah, with 5,000 HP, we can't beat them that fast, meaning I can't even start this place, is what we could say in the original timeline, but in the present day, I withheld a grind from you, the Lamia, who can only be fought in the Tower of Babel at this point, and if you didn't get enough reflect items from her, this is a soft lock. Again, I learned my lessons. With the ability to place up reflex, we have to save and reload until we get the luck where the trapdoor still targets and kills someone, but in the interim of those actions occurring, the opposite character can use the veil and then reflect the attack and boom, that's it. Easy dungeon otherwise, of course, just tedious to go through and hope for the luck to reflect 3 different doors, but after that we face a boss I was concerned about. The Demon Wall, which is a boss with a strict time limit. If you take too long to defeat him, your party starts getting crushed, which instantly kills someone every action the wall takes. He has 28,000 health and we need to absolutely pump. We are as strong as we can get, and I glossed over something, but there were some upgrades I grabbed in an optional area before coming to the sealed cave. That would be the Sylph Cave. This is where Yang happens to be, but we don't care about that guy. We want the Mage Masher in here. Oh yeah, that's it. This dagger is the strongest weapon we can use for Rydia for a while and is really good overall, just being a solid upgrade. That being said, here is the Demon Wall fight. I won't even commentate, just watch it play out. Oh, this is fucking it. Look at this, is lovely. This is damage though, am I right? How cool are these guys? After this we leave and Kane rips the crystal out of our hands and dabs before returning to Golbez, effectively meaning we just destroyed the world. We return to the king, who is thoroughly gobsmacked at how much ass we do gob with our mouths, and says, okay, last hope, long shot, but there might be a whale boat that can travel to space. We surprisingly don't think this is the stupidest shit we've ever heard, as the Mysidians said the same thing earlier in the game, so we get Sid to make a comical drill on the end of the airship and we travel back to the surface. Once there, we can go to Mysidia and discover they've been praying, and their prayers have been giving rise to the largest airship ever made, the Lunar Whale. It's free of charge apparently on account that once at the moon, how the fuck are we supposed to breathe? Never answered, no one cares. We get in the airship and now, welcome to our new home, the moon, the place where we have to farm for the best weapons in the game. Funnily enough, while most of the best stuff is found exclusively in the last dungeon, the best bow is a random and heinously ungodly rare drop from an enemy called Carrie. This warrior woman is found commonly in the optional and available dungeon of Bahamut's Lair, and this bow is crazy. It gives 15 to a bunch of stats, it's got humongous damage, it's just overpowered. The reason we are doing this, which is a very rough grind, is because the other playthrough was my test for what was possible in terms of using melee only, as by that point in that run I wanted to pivot to no more magic to see what was possible. The upcoming fights of the Four Fiend Gauntlet and the CPU are frankly impossible without better gear. I couldn't even begin to do anything to them. The combined total of the health pool for the Four Fiends is over 100,000 and they deal massively improved damage. It wasn't even close. So I'm curious if this is even possible with the best bow in the game, and enjoyably enough, the enemy also drops the Artemis arrows, which are the best ammunition in the game. So as we land on the moon, we get to work, and I'll save you the trouble of watching the reloads of the weak inflicting enemies, the general damage, the running away to find the right monsters, and finally we find one of the 2 we need. 9 hours later. I have a good supply of arrows after that, and actually I've only gained 5 levels on account of not wanting to waste even more time saving and scumming, so I started reloading the game when the enemy didn't drop the bow. Additionally, the same enemies also rarely drop the Minerva, the best body armor outside of the atrociously rare adamant armor that I will not be going for. The Minerva gives great stats and huge strength bonuses, and we get one for both Rydia and Rosa. Yeah, 4 more hours. I ran out of Titanic replays, the disc broke, and we get the second bow, and you don't know the catharsis of that moment. It was euphoric. These grinds are on par with like something like RuneScape. I'm just wasting my entire life. Now that we are strong as we will ever get, with also the slight possibility of Rydia's other weapon being really good, which is also a very rare drop, the Dragon's Whisker Whip, we are ready to move towards the end of the game. Before returning home to progress the story, we need to go talk to the lunar man Fusoya, who comes with us. This guy is essentially the big version of Tella, being an old man spellcaster who is good, but as I said, man, so The Giant of Babel has awoken, and that's apparently what happens when you get all the crystals together. A big robot appears, and it's powered by a Pentium 2. The point is, apparently you can break the computer, and that turns off the Giant, so we're on our way to do that now. Once back on Earth, the forces of the world, including the underground somehow, are battling the Giant. Sid picks us up with his airship to drop us inside while Yang is in a tank. Edward is there. There's Palom and Porum. I mean, just honestly, let her come with me. Let me leave Keckle at home now. She's like level 90. Once inside, it's time to battle, and yeah, I run to the end of the dungeon as per usual and find the Four Fiends waiting for me. This is our first test of the Artemis bow, the rarest weapon we could possibly get. Let's toss some Bacchus wine down the hatch and see how it goes. It's just a machine gun. Like, my God, the Four Fiends get massacred instantly. Watching Kazu and Barbarica die like that is outstanding. For all the time they wasted, the shitting on their heads is lovely. Then it's time for our biggest enemy in the entire run. I'm not joking. This is the personification of evil. Large, huge balls, just a giant set of balls. It's go time. This fight is funny because if you kill both small balls, the big ball instantly busts a nut and kills your partner. So you have to choose one or the other to destroy. The offensive one deals a lot of damage per attack to both of us and represents the idea that we will take thousands of damage. The other one heals the CPU for 3,000 per use, so it has to die. That's just insurmountable. I mean, maybe it's not actually, but I'm not bothering with it. Otherwise, the CPU doesn't have enormous health, but we can't use the Bacchus's wine here as you would randomly target either enemy, and if we kill the small one, we'll die. So Rydia plugs away with arrows while Rosa prays, and the fight goes very simply. On the original run, the CPU always has Reflect on, so there's a limited way to guarantee you'd kill him. You'd have to put Reflect on a friendly party member and bounce spells off to hit him, but the problem is you have no ability to aim where the spell goes, so I was just resetting a lot back then. And after the Giant falls, Fusoya slaps Golbez in the face and says, "Dumbass, you are good guy," and he looks at him and says, "Me, I'm good guy?" And everyone gets along and realizes Zemus is the guy we hate. He's the douche. Let's go to the moon and kill him. The two of them walk off and leave us to die, but then Kane shows up and says, "Listen, water under the bridge, right? Everyone makes mistakes. Come on, don't be toxic. Let's go together. Let's be good friends. I'm a good guy." We agree too simply and then go back to the airship together. Kane immediately sends pictures of his dick to Rosa. It's time for the final dungeon, and boy, we've been together through quite a lot today. And honestly, I'm excited because this is what I've been most curious to see. There is no data if you can physically defeat Zero Mist with just this. I didn't get this far. I stopped playing the final dungeon with magic. I opted to restart right then, and truthfully, this is the worst dungeon in the game. The lunar subterrane is a long place to navigate, but that's not the problem. It's got a tough boss encounter that guards two ribbons, the best headgear in the game for Rydia and Rosa. That's not the problem. Well, it is kind of a problem. Let's look at that fight real quick. Fortunately, it's next to a save point because it's a blender, a full-out brawl. It's a blink and you miss it moment. These lunar swords take nearly 10,000 damage from each bow attack, which is so sick. They also light me on fire and nearly kill both of us really fast, which leaves only Rydia alive. The ribbons are great, by the way. They help out. Lots of defense. Good. But I want to get to something. Unlike every other room in the game, there's one stretch that leads to the final boss, Zero Mist, where you cannot run. It's entirely full of mini bosses, and they are bad. Usually human players use exit to leave those encounters immediately, which is a kind of form of running. Obviously, we are not afforded that luxury. And yes, this is where I decided to play the game for a third time to delete the concept of running. Vaguely joking about that, but I did start and used my save files to see how that would be. And I won't go on too much about this because maybe someone out there wants to do what I didn't, but play the entire game without using the run command. And yes, there's new pitfalls that are really interesting, like how tiny mages at the beginning of the game make Rydia die instantly because you can't hurt them with magic and they have way too much health and offense to defeat with the Ice Rod. Plus, if you attack them physically, they counter with bind and then use spells. Or how Porums section now makes you reload every time you get a non-imp encounter instead of just running away. Or Corals requiring the use of a bronze hourglass every single time you encounter them in the magnet cave. There's a lot more, it's just insanely hard. Honestly, I regret not being able to present that challenge in its entirety to you, because at a cursory glance, it's like 10 times harder, but doable. It's just disgusting. You know, I missed out. I just wasn't going to play the game a third time. That's how it goes. But for this moment, we have no escape from this descent. Let's talk about it. There are various bosses in here, changing depending on the floor of the descent. Floor 1 sees the Behemoth, Red Dragon, and Evil Face. The Evil Face is kind of a fuck face. It's a run killer. I mean, none of the encounters are good, but with Artemis arrows and the bow with Bacchus wine, we deal like 10,000 damage and attack to the dragons who have only over 20,000 health total. The Behemoth counters physical attacks by attacking, but while in the back row, he misses frequently, so we can turn those fights down pretty easily. The Face, on the other hand, does a lot of weird shit and has enormous health, 37,000 total, taking 3 to 4,000 an attack from us. They then cast like everything, Flare, Holy, Confuse, and since there can be 2 of them in an encounter, we take far too much damage and we used far too many arrows. Yeah, that's another thing. The arrows are running out, I hate to say, and we need as many as we can for Zero Miss's 120,000 HP. But I discovered a really cool use for that bug from long ago, the one with Porum, where you don't run out of arrows under the effect of Berserk. If I equip a small portion of them and use a Bacchus wine, it means I'll never run out, and I'm functionally not using arrows in any of these unrunnable encounters. It's better than any strategy you could come up with, admit it. It's so great, yes. Oh my god, oh baby. The second floor introduces no new enemies, but is where you can fight groups of 2 or 3 dragons, 2 behemoths, and the double mask encounter. The floor is long and I hate it. Finally, the last floor introduces 2 enemies only, one that ends the attempt and the other that's a complete pushover. Good 50-50. Zemus's mine is a purple stain who takes no physical damage at all and casts charm, which is important, keep that in mind. Zemus's breath is the other one and he's terrible. It's a breath of someone's stinky, sweaty ass. It does nothing but scan and is not immune to anything. So if we get a mind, we lose, except for the Hail Mary play where we get charmed and under no choice of my own, Rosa casts Exit. That's allowed. I did this descent 15 times. The fact that RNG pulled that one out of the bag means it's a divine run. We're taking it. Also, I should mention, we find the rarest helmet in the entire game off the evil face, which is hilarious. Also hilarious, the glass helmet, while making you immune to physical hits, basically with 99% evasion, is also terrible against magic, and the final boss does not physically attack at all, so this item that you can only ever get in these 2 rooms is not actually ever worth getting ever. 4 sucks, worst game in the franchise. At the very bottom of the moon, we see Golbez and Fusoya fighting Zemus, a scary-ass purple man. Oh shit. They just kill him easily, and everyone is like, haha, what a dick that guy was. Suddenly, the dickhead that guy was becomes again, and he is now Zero Miss, a scary floating blue guy. What fiendish color is next? Well, that color will be revealed to us after we are murdered instantly by his mighty presence, as the people of Earth pray for our success. Porum resurrects the women, that's just poetic. Her presence rallies the troops. The men are resurrected by Edward, and then therefore are killed immediately. We are given infinite prep time before initializing the final battle by using the crystal item we were given by Golbez, so we just beat everyone to death. Thing is, our friend, the protagonist, Cecil, has to use it, and that sucks. It means at the very end of the game, ignoring the times we had no female party members, you can't beat the game with only women. If you're a little bitch, we aren't counting that. Be gone, man. The fight begins. Zero Miss now becomes hyper scary big something. He's brown now. What color next? It's red if we're in the GBA version, but you know, anyway, this guy is exceptionally hard. Big Bang is the signature move. It deals 2,000 damage to both of us, and he does it a lot, and I nearly lose the entire battle immediately. I was so pissed. Maybe I'll even give you a blast at my open mic because I accidentally recorded myself playing this. Why? Are you fucking crazy? What the fuck is this fight? Yeah, you're that salty man. Because this guy can go completely off at random points and it ruins the game. Our recovery includes elixirs, the first time I ever want to use them. And I have all kinds of support items to use, but he uses Black Hole, which strips away all that stuff. And it gets rid of Bacchus's wines too, but it's not a big deal. I have a lot of those to use. So I'm not sure it matters, but you can Silk Web Zero Miss and it seems to work, but I can't be sure it's actually having a real effect. In the end, the strategy goes that Rosa will be cramming elixirs in both our faces and Rydia is on some kind of drug going absolutely batshit. She's hitting for nearly 5,000 an arrow, which is ridiculous. The damage is so high for a black mage, and just seeing that is awesome. We go back and forth managing heals, having Meteor miss against us. Okay, you know, this guy sucks. And finally, we reach the finish line in the weirdest, longest, most disgusting playthrough of Final Fantasy IV ever. Zero Miss dies. I ran out of the room because I was so happy to not have to play this game anymore. Everyone returns to Earth. Shitsoul becomes king for some reason. Literally, I don't know why. What? He wasn't a politician. And the world is at peace. And I am both happy and sad. Very happy because I found out so much about one of my favorite games and some of the text, some of the lucky happenstance, like a Lamia being in the chest in Eblin Castle, the rune staff drop in the Tower of Zot, the ability to reflect a weird instant kill attack from the trapdoors, the ability to grab the Artemis bow when we could, the dozens of times that the right enemy was where I needed them to be, collecting items to daisy chain to our later chapters. It was just really weird, really interesting, and really disgusting in all ways, just the way I like it. And I'm sad because the challenge I came up with for Final Fantasy V almost 3 months ago has made zero progress despite insane effort. You don't know how bad it's going to be. I've cooked up some weird ones. I've made some tough restrictions. I've pushed things as far as I thought it could go with some of these entries, but with only one single word, I have ruined the 5th entry. It's going to be great. See you in 7 million seconds. That seems right.